Hello, this is author Nia Farrell, and I'm here today with Find Her, Avenging Angels MC Book 1. Rose McLanahan is the princess of the Avenging Angels MC, which is Motorcycle Club, daughter of its president and sister to 4 of its members, including Vice President Luke Mad Dog McLanahan. But Rose has a secret. She wants out of the clubhouse, and getting her CPA is her chance to have the normal life that she dreams about. Michael O'Flaherty is a computer whiz, security systems expert, and an associate of the Avenging Angels MC. He's Mad Dog's best friend, as well as his brother-in-arms. Their days in Marine RECON are put to use when Michael is called in to find the niece of a local mob boss. Krissy Castellari has been kidnapped by a rival club, the Blackwater Demons MC. Michael discovers where she's being held, but she's not alone. The demons have Rose McLanahan, too. Mad Dog and Michael join forces to extract the girls, but Rose is still in danger, having been promised to the son of the demons' president, Reaper. Mad Dog is tasked with returning Krissy to her family, and Michael agrees to take Rose away until it's safe for her to return. War has been declared. Blood will be spilled. Alone in the Angels' safe house, the dominant Michael and submissive Rose will finally discover each other. Welcome to the Avenging Angels MC, full of alpha males, dominant bikers, and the submissive women who love them.
Book lovers unite! I'm Demethius Jackson, and you're listening to the Chapter 1 podcast. The greatest stories ever written all begin with Chapter 1. In each episode, our guest authors will share their first chapters with you. On today's episode, I'll be speaking with my very first erotica author, Nia Farrell. She's a multi-award winning, prolific writer of many genres. But today, she'll be reading from her erotic romance novel entitled Find Her. And she'll be explaining the difference between erotica, erotic romance, and romance novels. So this is going to be a pretty exciting episode, and I was so happy to finally connect with her. So Nia Farrell, Finding Her, starts right now.
He reminded her of the movies that he'd brought. "Let me get cleaned up," she said. "We should have time to watch one, then hit the leftover barbecue and baked beans for supper. Maybe add some mac and cheese to it if that's okay." He'd graduated from box mixes to a 4-cheese gourmet version, but he didn't tell her that. "Sure," he said, "if that's what sounds good to you." She didn't take long in the shower. 20 minutes and she was back, dressed in a pair of curve-hugging yoga pants and a thin white T-shirt that clung to the swells of her better-than-B-cut breasts. Her black bra contrasted with her ivory skin and showed all too clearly through the shirt's knit fabric. Michael approached his films the way that Rose treated her groceries. He'd put them in a series of folders, categorized by type. Open the folder, and the titles were listed by the computer alphabetically. When a film crossed genres and he didn't remember which folder it was in, he could search by title or the last names of 2 stars. It was his system, and it worked. Except when it didn't. Rose saw the sexy folder and looked no further. He'd promised that she could choose the next movie, and what did she pick? Secretary. Fuck. We can't watch that. Michael's words were a red flag to Rose. She'd had to beg him for a beer. He'd acted like she'd never had one in her 19-year-old life. Worse, he was acting like he regretted being holed up with her. She'd be damned if she'd let him renege on his offer. Rose crossed her arms and arched her brow. And why not? For one thing, it's in Japanese with no subtitles. Really? That's so cool, but you know Japanese, right? You can tell me what's going on. No, he said firmly, I am not doing voiceover narration. Pick something else. No, I want this, she said, easily getting it started. Her brother Luke played movies the same way in his room at the clubhouse. And if you won't tell me what's going on, I'll just have to read faces and body language and tell you what I think is happening. Fuck. He said it beneath his breath. Like she couldn't hear him this close. Michael was hugging the far end of the sofa, determined to maintain his distance and pretend that he wasn't aware of this electricity humming between them. She'd noticed before all this that he was an attractive man. She'd have to be blind not to, with that dark Irish coloring of his, thick black hair, a sinful brush of lashes framing his brilliant blue eyes, and the short scruff of beard that he wore that was so irresistible on men. Trouble was, she was totally off his radar, like he had mental blinders that kept him from noticing her. She had remained on the periphery of his vision, always out of focus, until now. And he didn't like it. It was unsettling, disturbing, something that he couldn't control, and his dominant nature found that unacceptable. Well, too bad. He wasn't her sir, not yet anyway, and he was just going to have to deal with it. She didn't tell him that she'd seen the movie before. It had been a while, so she couldn't remember everything that happened. Let him think it was her first time. It would serve him right for shutting her out. Oh, wow, she breathed, watching the opening sequence. She must not be wearing lipstick, or she'd ruin that page she just pulled out of the typewriter, and then she'd get spanked for it. Maybe she wants spanked for it. No, she needs her other hand free for the coffee. Ah, I see. Interesting office wear. After this movie, do you think businesses started addressing spreader bars in their dress code? Michael rubbed his face and said nothing. She's leaving home. Just graduated, and her dad's sending her off into the world alone. No, someone's picking her up. A wedding? And that's her gay best friend. She doesn't like the older guy hugging her. What's that stuff? Wait, she's a cutter? No shit. But she stops herself. Good girl. She kept it up, getting some of it right, telling some of it wrong. Michael didn't seem to appreciate that she thought the spanking scene was fucking hot, or like listening to the extended argument she had with herself, whether or not there was penetration. He's probably just dry humping her, she decided. He seems the type to deny a girl her pleasure. She's being punished, Michael growled. She hasn't earned his cock or an orgasm. Rose was feeling reckless after her second beer. And what the hell does it take to earn a fucking cock? The woman has done whatever he asked, from dumpster diving to crawling. I'd say she's more than earned it. When she's not being punished, yeah, I suppose you're right. But not now. Anything else waits. She drained her bottle and pointed at him like an accusing finger. You know, women get tired of waiting, same as men. He'll be lucky if she stays. A woman with that kind of devotion who gets kicks from his kinks? We're a rare breed, Michael, but then I guess you know that, right? No steady girlfriend, no permanent sub. Still banging that house sitter of yours, Heidi Brunhilde? Gretchen, he snapped, glowering. Her name is Gretchen, and that's none of your fucking business. How much have you had to drink? She stopped to think. Dos. She deliberately slurred and held up 2 fingers and a thumb. See, you're not the only one who knows a foreign language. Yo habla español. Michael tissed and shook his head. Well, that's too many, princess. No more today if that's all the better you can handle it. Rose sat up straight. I can handle it, she argued, pinning Michael with her gaze. I can handle a lot of things. Keeping her eyes on him, she wagged a finger at the movie they were watching. I bet I could handle his kink. I bet I could handle your kink. Michael crossed his arms and smirked at her. Oh, really? You think you can handle me? Little girl, you have no idea. Rose cringed. Don't call me that. I'm not a little girl. I'm fucking 19 years old, Crash. When are you going to stop treating me like a child and see that I'm all grown up? When you stop fucking acting like one. Michael leveled that look, the one that commanded respect, demanded obedience, while every fiber of her being was daring her to disobey. Clutching her empty bottle to her chest, she gave him her own incredulous look and shook her head in disbelief. You, she grated, are so fucking clueless. You have no idea. None. She rolled her eyes and barked a harsh laugh. You know what? It doesn't matter. Screw this. Screw you. Rose shot out of her seat and started walking. Where do you think you're going? Michael said, his voice filled with displeasure. The kitchen, she snapped, refusing to look at him. I'm going to throw away my trash. That will wait until I goddamn say so, he said tightly, rising from his seat and stalking towards her. Fucking lot of nerve you've got after everything I've done for you. You think you can disrespect me like that and fucking walk away? Think again, little girl. You tease me, you rouse the beast. You say you can handle kink? Let's start with a spanking. See how hot you think it is when it's your ass on fire. Rose shivered. Michael took the beer bottle from her fingers and tossed it on the sofa. He eyed the rounded end, then her. Bend over it, now. Oh, God. She draped herself over the end of the sofa, putting her hands on the seat cushion, bracing herself on straightened arms, preparing herself for what was coming. When nothing came, she looked over her shoulder to find Michael staring at her ass. Her T-shirt had ridden up, and her yoga pants had no panty lines. Before she could chicken out, she reached behind her, hooked her thumbs in her waistband, and slid her pants to the middle of her thighs. Reaching, she put her palms on the sofa cushion and waited for him to begin. He stepped closer, covering one ass cheek with his large, capable hand. He tested it, mapping the contours, flexing his fingers, feeling the tone of her muscles, and judging resiliency. The first thing smarted. She grimaced, but otherwise did not react. The second blow fell hard enough to make her breath catch in her chest. More strikes on both sides, quicker, harder, working up to the flurry of them that they had watched. By the time they finished, Rose was a sobbing mess, and Michael had a raging hard-on. He made her stretch out on the sofa while he went for ice. He brought back 2 quart-sized plastic zip bags filled with cubes and put one on each of her ass cheeks. Sitting on the coffee table and nearest her head, he looked more concerned than smug. She supposed she should be grateful that he wasn't gloating or rubbing in how he'd made her weep. She never cried, damn it, at least not where people could see her, and she blubbered like a baby for Michael. Rose shivered, feeling chilled all over. Cold, he asked, actually sounding concerned. Yeah. Teeth chattering, Rose tucked her arms underneath her. Michael left again and brought back a summer-weight blanket that he draped over her. The chill, it's normal. Subdrop, he said. Endorphins get released during a session, and subdrop can happen when your body's processing everything. Rose heaved a sigh. So I get subdrop but no subspace. Great. Just great. Look on the bright side. He handled the first of his kink, but there's a lot more than spanking in that movie.
That was a great read. Very visual. That seems to be your style?
Yes, I write poetry and music, and I'm a very visual writer. People can see the scenes. They're really brought to life with my words.
Is this one of your tamer scenes, or is this how your scenes normally go?
Oh, no, honey, this is tame compared to what the book is. I mean, this is no sex. I mean, this is spanking and mental foreplay.
So, admittedly, I'm not familiar with erotica, and I've never had an erotica author on the show before, but I wanted to feature you because your previous works are so much more than just sex. For example, you use BDSM and submission as tools for healing post-rape PTSD.
Yes.
So, how did you begin writing erotica romance?
As a young mother, I discovered romance novels. I was reading quite a bit, and my husband said, you know, you could write one of those. And so I wrote my first one at his encouragement. And several years passed, and my sister loaned me some of her private stash, and they were erotic romance. Now, I'm going to get into some differences here because I do write romance, erotica, and erotic romance, and there's a difference between all of those categories. Between romance and erotic romance, it's a matter of degrees. It's basically the same stories or happily ever afters, but there's more left to the reader's imagination in romance and very descriptive passages written in erotic romance. So you have things spelled out for you. You don't have to imagine nearly as much. With erotica, it's not necessarily a happily ever after. There is some story there, but your characters aren't Mr. and Mrs. Nice Person Next Door. When they buy a Nia Farrell book, they know exactly what they're getting. As far as the heat level goes, if it's 5 out of 5, I'm going to be a 6. I love menages. I especially like bisexual men in menages, so that's called MMF, when the men also have a relationship with each other. I usually write oral, vaginal, anal penetration, when women are involved. I don't hold anything back when I write sex scenes as Nia, but they're very tastefully handled.
So, Find Her, the book you read for us, is just one out of many books you've written. What inspires these individual stories?
Well, I tell people that the stories literally come from a source outside me. I'm what they call a pantser. I have nothing pre-plotted. It starts with the characters. Once I get to know the characters, have an idea of the story, I start writing it. And I never know exactly where it's going to go until they've taken me through it. I don't shy away from topics, but I don't usually set out planning on what a character's experiences are. If they happen to have eating disorders or a history of something, that comes from the character. It's not something that I've said, I'm going to write a book about whatever. Every book is an adventure, but I figure if they keep me guessing, they're going to keep the reader guessing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's my writing process. Everything pretty much goes back to my Three Graces series, which are a set of menages set in fictional Posey, Minnesota, the fictional menage capital of the United States. But the motorcycle Blackwater Demons that are in Find Her, the chapter in Minnesota that had done the kidnapping, that's book 3 of the Three Graces series. And that was my Golden Flogger finalist, BDSM Book of the Year in the Menage category.
I love the fact that you were able to illustrate these scenes within a pretty tightly woven storyline. Now, again, I'm not familiar with erotica, but I know that sometimes it's similar to porn where it's just kind of one scene after another, but yours comes from a different place, it seems.
Oh, I tell a novel's worth of story in a novella. Novels start at 40,000 words and go up. My novellas, my replay series, are around 20,000 words, and they range, like 19 to 26,000. This last book was my biggest, and it was 26,000, but it's got 10 perfect 5-star reviews at Amazon. It's replay book 8 called The Dark Side, and it's 1930s Hollywood vamp meets vampire at a BDSM theme resort where people role play in the past. So every book is unique because it's a different time period, different settings. I've done World War I, I've done Vikings, I've done pirates, I've done, next one will be gladiators. There's no limit, and that's what I love about this book. Even though the timeline starts in book 1, all the stories interconnect, but they unfold independently. So you can start at book 8 and go back and read the rest of them just fine.
Yeah. I know that sometimes books such as yours come with a significant amount of criticism. Did you receive any pushback from people that you knew? I mean, I know that your husband was supportive. In fact, this was all his idea. But
actually, the only negative thing I've had is that when newspapers, they talk about interviewing you, they'll do the legal name me that writes nonfiction and children's books, and I've done a documentary screenplay, and so that's all done under my legal name, and I keep her totally separate from these other 3.
Sure.
Other 3 share a website at niafarrell.wordpress.com. The children's author is not allowed to play there, so it's more of a matter of educating people.
Yeah. Well, clearly your stories are being well received, as you've won numerous awards in a relatively short time.
Yeah, and probably my biggest one was, and it's my biggest book, it's called As Wicked as You Want. It's male, female menage set in 1868 election year. Their Democratic National Convention is about to pick who's going to run against Grant. And it's my biggest, literally my naughtiest book, but it is so rich because of the length, and it's not an instant menage. It's a very, very gradual process to woo the the second man into the relationship.
What do you think people find so appealing about your stories?
I have no idea. I mean, you get, some people like it because of the BDSM. Some people don't like BDSM. But really, I think it's because the characters are so engaging. It's some people that they can relate to. They're flawed. They have things that they have to overcome, and you see how they do it. This last book, the heroine had a back surgery, an accident, and required back surgery and plate. But she's my first heroine with that kind of back issue. You wouldn't believe the people that have contacted me that love reading a heroine with their problem.
Yeah, it's relatable.
Yes, yeah, they identified with it.
That's pretty interesting, actually. I didn't realize that, what is it, erotica, erotic romance, and, well, I knew romance were different. But
romance, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was a distinction between erotica and erotic romance. It just makes me wonder, I mean, how many folks are interested in the kink BDSM world, you know?
I'm going to mention the F word, the 50 Shades of Grey, really brought BDSM to awareness of people like it hadn't been done before. But truthfully, that book isn't true BDSM. It's not a good representative of what actually happens in the lifestyle. There are things happen that are, edging toward non-consensual or dubious consent, and that wouldn't happen between a true dominant and submissive relationship. So while we're grateful that it brought BDSM into awareness, we don't want people to look at 50 Shades of Grey and think that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think that with the momentum from 50 Shades and also the slow burn that you create in these stories and the dynamic, relatable characters that you create with these stories, you found the perfect storm. You found your niche. And, I listen to and I read Dan Savage. I'm familiar with FetLife. So I know the interest is out there. It's something that I enjoy reading and that I enjoy writing, and it's been very, very well received by my readers. You've alluded to this before, but what do you really want people to gain from your stories?
I want them to gain understanding and foster acceptance. Even if you don't embrace something, just to understand and accept someone else's choices would make the world so much better place.
I'm sure you've learned a lot of lessons and gained a lot of experiences over the years of your writing career. What advice would you give to writers just starting out in erotica, erotic romance, or those who may be thinking about it but are hesitant?
Well, again, we're readers first. Read what's out there. See what speaks to you, what you like. Think about what you'd like to write. Get on social networks, meet people, make connections, have all that in place before you start writing. Because I love to say, I knew an author when. I knew them when they were still a reader and now they're an author. Mm-hmm. I enjoy that. Whatever you do, be grateful. Pay it forward. Pay it back. People will help you along the way. You do the same wherever you can. But don't feel guilty if you have to say no. Time becomes a stewardship issue. Your mantra should always be what's for the highest good. I have people that need help editing. I have a schedule that doesn't allow me to do that for other people because I've got 21 titles that'll be out next year. I've got 22 planned for the year after that. That's a lot of words to write.
Yes.
So when I explain the situation, I don't even have time for idle conversation on Messenger. I'll get a new friend and I'll say, hey, what's up? And I'll go, working. That's it. That's, if you have a question about writing, I'm more than happy to try to answer it. But for idle conversation, I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and speaking with me. Where can readers find you and your work online?
Okay, for Nia Farrell, the best thing would be to follow my Amazon author page. It's NIA, like Nancy, Indigo, Asia. Farrell, like Colin Farrell, Farrell, 2 R's, 2 L's. Amazon, but if they go to niafarrell.wordpress.com, that's my website. So they're going to get covers. They're going to get teasers. Oh, I make the best teasers. They're going to get blurbs and excerpts, good stuff from the books. So they can go on my website. They can check everything out. Again, see what appeals to them. And with books coming out literally every month, there's always something fresh, always something new. I figure once my husband retires, I'll slow down so we can do more things as a couple. But as long as he's working, I'm pushing. I'm pushing hard to get things out.
And with that, we're going to wrap up another episode. Thanks again to Nia for taking the time to speak with us today. And if you have any questions for her or me, or you know an author who you think would be a good fit for the show, let me know. Connect with me on social media or send an email to info@ch1podcast.com. Check out our website where you can listen to previous episodes and hopefully find your next favorite author. That's it for me. You guys stay awesome. Till next time.